This is the biggest game for Notre Dame in 30 plus years. 1994 was the last time this had implications of high level because this is a good Notre Dame team. This is actually a great Notre Dame team. People can go ahead and say, well, they've had an easy start to the year. Okay. How has that stopped Sam Hartman from leading college football in passing touchdowns? How has that stopped this offense led by a brand new coordinator finish top 10 in scoring and top 10 in total yards? How has that stopped Audric Estime from being a bulldozing bell cow running back and basically pile driving defenders into the ground as he runs his way into the end zone? Use the excuses all you want. Notre Dame hasn't played anybody. They haven't done this. They haven't done that. They haven't been tested. Okay, well, here's the litmus test. Here is the breaking point. What does a win mean for Notre Dame? I want to go back to 2012 because this was the last time Notre Dame, I think, actually believed a national championship was in its reach. They went undefeated. They absolutely proved to the country that they were at least a legitimate threat to hoist up the Crystal Ball Trophy. But I was in college at the time. I was a freshman at Alabama, and I remember sitting down inside of a fraternity house and watching the SEC championship. And on one side, you had A.J. McCarron, you had T.J. Yeldon, you had Amari Cooper, you had superstar playmakers on defense led by C.J. Mosley, D. Milner. It was a good Alabama team. On the flip side, you had Georgia. Mark Richt was still the head coach. You still had Aaron Murray. Todd Gurley just became a household name. And this was a game that everyone was paying attention to. Georgia wins. Mark Richt is probably going to the national championship and winning his first trophy. Aaron Murray is going out with a bang. Todd Gurley is not just becoming a name that everyone knows in college football. He's becoming an icon at Georgia. And you watch the way that final drive happened, and Alabama gets one key stop, and the clock strikes 0, and our first inclination is not to say, Alabama's good. Alabama has something different. No, our first inclination was, how bad of a beatdown is Notre Dame going to get? How terrible is this game going to be? And it was. It was a blowout. You watched Eddie Lacy score countless touchdowns. You saw A.J. McCarron become a 2-time national championship winner. You saw T.J. Yeldon and Amari Cooper make their names known at Tuscaloosa. And the streets were riddled with drunken teenagers celebrating yet another title against Notre Dame. Notre Dame was good, but they weren't that good. This Notre Dame team would absolutely blow that team out of the water. And it would blow the 2019 team out of the water, and it would blow the 2020 team out of the water, and it would blow every team that has ever been considered relevant in South Bend, Indiana up to this point. Because Notre Dame is actually a really good roster. I don't want to hear about the scheduling. I don't want to hear about how they, quote unquote, don't play everybody every single year. This year they do. They got games against Clemson. They got games against Duke, who's actually a really good roster. They have a game against Louisville, who I am a lot higher on than most. They have a game against USC, which if this game lives up to the hype, that game is going to be potentially the game of the year. That absolutely can. But what does a win do for Notre Dame? Number one, it justifies why you went out in the transfer portal to go get Sam Hartman. Hartman was a stud at Wake Forest. He's the all-time leader in the ACC in passing touchdowns with 110. He's number 2 in passing yards, only behind Phillip Rivers. And he could have gone anywhere in the country. But he chose to go to Notre Dame for games such as these, for the ones where all television screens are going to be pointed at his name on the back of his jersey, and they are going to want to see if he can deliver. That's why you bring him in. And Marcus Freeman didn't have to do that. Marcus Freeman had 2 quarterbacks. He had Drew Pine and he had Tyler Buckner. And both of them could have been starters. Last year, they go 9-4 with the 2 of them combined. Now, Buckner sucked at the start of the year, but he did get a win over South Carolina, which at least gives you confidence that he was doing something right. But you bring in Sam Hartman because you know this is a quarterback that elevates our status. And so far he has. Leads college football in passing touchdowns. He's number 2 in passing yards. He also has a great rapport with this young receiving room, with the tight end play. The offensive line has done a good job. Audric Estime is a freaking stud. And the defense underneath Al Golden has taken another step forward. And that's because of what Marcus Freeman did. So if you get a win, it justifies moving off of Tyler Buckner. It justifies moving off of Drew Pine. And it puts you in the conversation of, I know what I'm doing as a head coach. Speaking of which, number 2, you got the hire right when it came to Marcus Freeman. Notre Dame is an institution that can literally go out of its way and bring in whoever the hell they want. They can. They have the money. They have the resources. They have the complex. They have the facility. They have the history. They have everything that a coach is looking for to build up their name. And so far, they've always seemed to go with the under-the-radar hire. Nobody knew who Charlie Wise was before he got into campus. Nobody had an idea about him. He ended up leading the team to multiple 10-win seasons before he burnt every bridge and was shown the door. Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly was an up-and-comer from Cincinnati when he was hired. Guess what? Became the all-time winningest coach in program history. Became a household name. Took the team to a national championship and 2 college football playoff appearances. Guy's got something going right because LSU could not wait to bring him in to make sure that him and his family would be enough to go ahead and put them over the jump. But then you can go ahead and say the exact same thing. Marcus Freeman is a name that is eventually going to be a superstar in this industry. He's young, he's up and coming, he can relate to players. Do we go with this hire now versus, say, a Luke Fickell at Cincinnati, or try and get Ryan Day to leave Ohio State, or try to get another high-profile coach that could come in right away and maybe be a little bit more sound? If Marcus Freeman wins this game, he's proven not only he was the right hire, but it was the right time to make the hire. Because if he was winning big on the recruiting trail, which never happened in South Bend, Indiana, he was developing talent on the defensive side, which hasn't really been a big staple since probably 2012 when you had Manti Te'o, and he was winning big in the locker room. Players were elated to know that he was their head coach and that he was sticking around. And so now you justify in the big games, you get that guy to be your man. And that's the person who's leading you to national championship aspirations. That's the guy who can actually be supportive and consistent in the college football playoff. And he can win on the recruiting trail and the transfer portal. Notre Dame is becoming not only a household name, but it is becoming a place that everyone who can get in wants to be at. Number 3, you can go toe-to-toe with anybody. This season's done. You got to put back look at the schedule. Look at who they play. Look at the numbers. This is that game. That's it. Plain and simple. Everyone knows what Ohio State is. Everyone knows what Ohio State does. Everyone has seen how Ohio State has meticulously put themselves in a cut above everyone else in the Big Ten, minus probably Michigan. And even then, look at the history of Michigan before Jim Harbaugh. Look at it after Jim Harbaugh. Ohio State was doing all that well before Michigan was back in the saddle. They were the only great team in the Big Ten for a few years. It was them, insert random ass number 2 team here. They do that, they can go toe-to-toe with Ohio State. I mean, they can go toe-to-toe with USC. They could easily beat up on Clemson. They could go toe-to-toe with anybody in the country because Ohio State has weapons on weapons on weapons on weapons. They have a defense that has no business of being as bad as they've looked so far. They have first-round talent on the offensive line. They have first-round talent in the passing game. They have first-round talent in the secondary. They develop future NFL studs. And if you bring it into your backyard and shut them down, you are legitimately a threat. You are different than every other team that has ever walked through South Bend, Indiana in the last 30-plus years. And you prove that you can win on the road. You prove that you can win at home. You have the right coach leading the charge for your future. You went out, you got the quarterback that's going to set the tone and put you over the edge. And now you can strut your stuff, puff out your chest and say, you want to go toe-to-toe with us? Bring it on. We're going to knock your ass down and you ain't getting back up without a second win coming. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.